We are doing a series of webinars on the emerging IT and BPM tech hubs of India. We do have a report that nasscom has collaborated with Deloitte to figure out what are the next emerging tech and tech hubs in IT and BPM, and we will share that link in the chat. Request everybody to download that report and have a read when you get a chance. We're here to kind of talk about how to build up ecosystems in all of these emerging locations. And we have like a fascinating lineup of panelists who have centers in these different locations and will talk to us about how these emerging destinations are helping the enterprise. How do we get world-class talent out of these locations where we churn out work that is, incredible, retaining different talent groups, doing a lot of transformative work as well. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our line of panelists. We have Ashfaq Shiliwala, who's the founder and CEO of Transform Solutions. We have Namrata Gupta, who's co-founder and COO, Sinoverge Technology Private Limited. We have Mahesh Krishnamurthy, who's the managing director of Co-Integra Consulting. And we also have Shefali Gaur, who's the transformation leader and site leader of Gift City IBM. We have Avanti Deshpande, who's the manager of membership and outreach of nasscom for the Mumbai region, who will be moderating the session. Over to you, Avanti, and looking forward to a very insightful session with this kind of leaders at the front. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Priya. Good morning to one and all. And as we've seen how the emerging hubs are growing, so we know that with a resourceful approach, a pool of skilled workforce paired with emerging technologies, the industry is very well positioned today to expand its footprint across the country. So without much ado, let's hear it from the industry experts themselves on how they have leveraged the key strengths of the emerging hubs to propel their organizations into the winner's orbit. And so Priya has already welcomed our esteemed panelists. So thank you for joining, panelists. So let me directly delve into the basic questions that all of us have. So what are the factors that influenced your decision to establish delivery operations in one of the in the emerging hubs that you are today? And how do these locations fit into your overall delivery strategy? Maybe we can start with Shefali, if you could help us to throw some light on this.
Sure. Thank you, Avanti. See, India's IT business and delivery is concentrated within few cities for the longest time, which are completely saturated and they are bleeding with resources and crying for help. I think it was about time that we expand to other cities in this webinar's parlance emerging hubs. And I'm very glad that both industry and government understood the criticality and came together to make it happen. It also got accelerated after COVID as people moved to their hometowns and worked from home and realized they can get best of both the worlds, a better quality of life while still having a fulfilling career. While earlier talent needs to go where companies were, now it was the time for companies to go where the talent is. We opened 3 facilities in emerging hubs at Gift City, Gujarat, Kochi, in Kerala, and Bhubaneswar, Orissa. All the cities provided us great infrastructure and facilities, government support, access to local talent, and a great academic ecosystem for continuous supply of talent. IBM was one of the biggest names in these cities, and it was easier for us to hire at scale and at speed, and also to be able to retain talent better, which was extremely important as we have work from all across the world coming to these emerging hubs. And of course, there are cost benefits to both companies and to IBMers.
Thanks, Shefali. Maybe we could have your view, Ashfaq.
Well, my view is slightly different. I really did not have a strategy in place. I started the delivery center here because we are from South Gujarat and Surat happened to be the closest city from my hometown and my wife belongs here. So, but overall, it worked out very well for 2 reasons. One, like Sefali said, we get a large pool of talent and there is no competition in terms of hiring. That is one. And post-COVID, people who have done their engineering from Pune, Bangalore, or who are working there did not want it to go back to their workplace because they wanted to continue working from their home or their city closer to their homes. And, it worked out well. So we are getting better talent who have worked in large corporations in our city now. So that has created a new talent pool kind of situation here in Surat. Uh, I mean, we see a lot of new companies that are either setting up their delivery centers here because most of the Gujaratis are business entrepreneurs, either in US or some part of the world. So they want some delivery center. People in tech, they want their delivery centers located in cities, smaller cities, closer to their hometown or in their hometown, so that they can visit more often and also create employment with a giving back kind of you know emotion. So that is working very well for market like Surat.
Thanks, Ashwin. Manish, could we have a view of how you, ended up coming to the emerging hubs? How's it working?
So Avanti, if you ask me, I started exploring these emerging hubs, which is today called emerging hubs, but at those time it used to be called tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, or it used to be called, rural areas. So I started my career with BFSI, and banks were expanding like crazy in late 90s, early 2000s. So the logic that you have a bank in every place and you have a local talent hired there itself gives you a kind of a thought that you can do multiple things in these so-called emerging hubs. Uh, I also later in my career started working with partners, or at those times they were called vendors. Today they have become more of partners as they have evolved. Who had set up shops, in rural areas, like you had rural shows, for example. You had an EXL at a point of time, and then you had this Vindhya, which used to work with the specially abled people. So in 2010, I used to work with them, look at their models, and then I realized that they had their own fair share of struggles because they were the kind of service providers who used to operate there. Eventually, when I moved into entrepreneurship, the thought remained in the mind that uh, there are two perspectives to it. One perspective, which even Shifali mentioned earlier, is the entire cost optimization, right? So obviously, developing emerging hub would have better cost optimizations than those 6, 7 hubs, metro cities in our country where everything is kind of saturated and structured. The second perspective also is the biggest challenge which India faced between a 2007-8 to a 2018-19, which continues today as well, is the retention of talent. So retention of talent always was better in emerging hubs as compared to the metro cities where the opportunities were more. And third most important thing is you get a lot of personal satisfaction also because you're not having people migrate out of their roots. So on a personal basis, you still have those people sitting in those locations, their families are there. And typically, most of us here, since we have worked with emerging hubs or have our own centers in emerging hubs, know that it's unlike a nuclear family that you have in metro and tier 1 kind of cities. There, it's kind of pooling of income culture. So you have your father also working, your sister also working, your brother also working, your sister-in-law also working, and everyone is pooling their income and living in a fairly larger house than what we stay in metro cities. So that culture is there. So, you don't need to uproot them and say that, one son is here, one son is there, one daughter is there, and that's the kind of things that happens. And rightly said by my co-panelist, post-COVID, this has got a real good boost. Before COVID, we had our own fair share of struggles. Post-COVID, with the hybrid kind of working, remote working, and the entire digital infrastructure in India uniformly evolving, I think it's got a tremendous boost, which otherwise we people who were trying to set this up in 2010, 12, 15, 18 had our own fair share of struggles. But today, who people venturing into it will not have the kind of struggles that we have. Trust me, it will be a far more smoother thing. So the first center I created in Solapur, Maharashtra in 2014, I had massive struggles. After that, I've created 4 more hubs in the last 3, 4 years. It's frankly been a cakewalk.
Great, great. Thanks. Good to know that, Mahesh. So, Namrata, coming to you, you're the founder of Sinoverge. Could you please share your experience and how you ended up creating it there?
Sure. Thank you, Avanti, and thank you all co-panelists for sharing your your perceptions. From our side, we had founders coming in already from the industry with a lot of experience, and they had worked in all the major cities, maybe internationally also, and some of the tier one companies in the past. So obviously there was a lot of deliberation, whether it would be right to open, your first headquarters in Ahmedabad, where we are located currently. We started back in 2010, and we were five co-founders. Most of had some connection with Ahmedabad, and we're having some base in Ahmedabad. So of course, Ahmedabad became a very easy choice for us to start off. And since we were starting off, starting in any of the established cities or major cities would have had its own challenges in getting the right talent, setting up in offices and retaining the talent, even the cost factors and many other things would have been a challenge to start off in a major city. So it was kind of a logical choice to start off in Ahmedabad, and we always had the choice of expanding into other major cities at a later point of time as the need arises. But when we started off in Ahmedabad, we kind of expanded very fast. The talent availability was not a challenge from the kind of technology we were kind of dealing with at that point of time. And the academics and even the colleges and universities in Ahmedabad and around are pretty good. And so the availability of resources at that time, in fact, was better. Today, it's more of a challenge because it's already emerged as a hub, and hence that resources availability challenge is always. But at that time, it was an easier thing, and retaining the talent was also possible. Even in terms of infrastructure expanding, right? We didn't have to worry too much. We could always get a bigger office. In maybe in major cities, in other cities, it would have been a bit of challenge to expand. Given the cost factor and availability factor as well, we could set up multiple offices here, which were quite nearby in terms of vicinity as well. So it was easy to manage the operations as well. We set up our leadership team. Setting up the leadership team or the initial team was of the key importance for us. Because we had to get the right people, to have our maturity and the kind of things that we wanted to bring in, because we were never a resourcing kind of or a tech resourcing kind of a company. We've always wanted to be a value add company. We've always wanted to bring in technology niche. So the leadership team was important. Resources we could get, but how do you get the right leadership team in this kind of a location? So that is where we had to reach out to some of our networks. We got the initial team, and which gave a good kickstart to us, because when you see senior people joining us, the rest of the thing falls in place. So we set up that kind of a leadership team, and then it was kind of continue to expand, and then this became our core operations hub. And we opened offices otherwise like in other places like Mumbai or Japan and otherwise, but mostly those were sales offices, customer support offices, or niche skills that we needed to bring in from there. But the entire thing worked out very well, that we were able to set up the whole operations hub in Ahmedabad, and we consolidated our offices and expanded it to that extent. So from a this strategy point of view, now this works out very well for us. We are able to, the vicinity and accessibility from the other major cities is also good. Ahmedabad is anyway coming out as an emerging hub. Now that, we invested back in 15 years back, but today it is already coming out to be a good place. So I would say from an overall strategy and, fitting into our, the overall vision, it seemed to have worked out very well.
Great, great. Good to know. Thanks, Namrata. So if I could come back, Shefali, to you. So we know now there is some talent pool available. So what sort of projects or products are getting delivered using from these emerging hubs? And what are the typical skill sets that you're hiring for from your emerging hub locations? Shefali?
Sorry, I was.
Yeah.
We are working on all the leading edge technologies. Like we are working on IoT, mobile, we are working on augmented reality, digital twin, threat protection, cybersecurity. So IBM generally follows three in a box model where each product is managed by a product manager, designer, and developer. And the fourth angle is support. All this together needs sales to cater to clients' needs. And we also have a team called Ecosystem Engineering, which works directly with partners. Its major job is to infuse IBM technologies in solutions provided by our service partners. We work with our top GSIs and uh, hundreds and hundreds of service partners all across the world. So we have presence of all these teams in emerging hubs. They are building products and services, bringing in significant revenue for IBM. So they are not kind of support branches. They are very much part of the strategic initiatives, and they are bringing in a lot of significant revenue for us. And we hire all kind of roles for product development, design, services, sales. And since we work with global teams, partners and clients directly, we need people with experiential selling skills, communication skills, along with all the technical skills, the technologies that I've mentioned earlier, and more. And we support all kind of motions from these hubs. It's not only build, but also sell and service.
Okay, so all the critical work is also, some of the critical work is also getting delivered.
Yes,
Great.
yes.
Great, great. So, Mahesh, if I could come to you, what sort of skill set are you hiring for, and what sort of work is getting delivered from your locations?
So typically we have, 4 or 5 proprietary products and which are unique products in this industry, which frankly doesn't have, it's kind of monopolistic. We don't have much competition in that space for the products and also bespoke solutions. So typically the kind of skill sets that we hire in our centers would be the traditional languages, Java, .NET, those kind of things. Second is also the latest technologies, the future technologies. So we have people who work on Python, we have people who work on AI, we have people who work on the AR, VR kind of solutions. Uh, but most of our skill sets that are required there requires a lot of logical thinking along with the coding skill sets. So it's a combination of both. And for us, since we are in a niche domain of compliances and all our solutions are RegTech solutions, it requires a knowledge of the domain also. Now, when we set up the center, of course, the first 3 months we have to invest quite a lot. We had to invest quite a lot in developing those people and having those right kind of domain knowledge, understanding the product, what they are building. So it's typically the story of the bricklayer versus the castle maker that we had over there. But once we had the first batch of 6, 7 people that we have picked up fresh from the college, uh, go through that, then we of course had the train the trainer kind of program. So then we started expanding in that way. So all the niche skills, future technologies are being done over there. Since the last 1 year, we are enjoying a different perspective. So we also have a lot of reverse migration that's happening. So people who moved from the location Solapur to, let's say, Pune or Bombay or Hyderabad, which is the nearest IT hub in a 6 hour distance from that location. So typically the experienced people, the skilled people are kind of doing a reverse migration back there. So all kinds of skills that you can probably think technically from a technology perspective, we have there. And additionally, of course, we are also partnering with institutions to develop the skill set as part of their 7 semester, 8 semester, and get their talent pool through that channel as well. So today it's a fairly robust set place over there.
Cool, cool. Thank you, Mahesh. Ashfaq, what about your organization, this Transform Solutions? What is sort of the work that you are delivering, and what are the skill sets?
So we are a pure play BPM company or IT enabled services company. So most of the work we do is around data. And we follow right from the day one. We did not have any talent, so we were one of the first company to establish here. I'm talking of 2002. So we developed a strategy where we only hire freshers most of the time, unless it is very necessary and there is no candidate available whom we can promote. But we hire most people at the fresher level, then invest enough time in training first 3 to 4 months. Then depending on how they perform or what their skill sets are, we try to promote them to the next level. So today, so we started with data annotators or digitizers, and now we also are into technologies like RPA, UiPath, automation anywhere, Blue Prism, and things. And yeah, so that's the kind of talent we hire. But there are companies who are into product development. There are companies who hire Python developers. Even we require a lot of Python developers because of the data extraction requirement that we have. And yeah, so and Surat has emerged as a market where you now get all kind of talent. Like Mahesh said, there is a lot of reverse migration happening because after a certain age, people have kids. They want to come back to their parents so that they get help in raising their kids. They get bigger houses. So yeah, so that's the kind of scenario we are in today.
Thanks, Ashfaq. Namrata, we could hear from you.
Sure. So, in terms of, since this is our core base, right, operations and delivery base, we are doing all kind of our major work right from here in Ahmedabad. As I mentioned, we are not typical resourcing or staffing kind of a company. Hence, most of our work is in terms of technology solutions being provided in various domains and business situations. And we have clearly well-defined technology as well as service offerings around which we need to operate. So while we may get a certain level of skill sets from the market, we definitely need to do internal training and preparing them for the kind of offerings that we have in place. But yes, at least the basic skills we are able to get it from locally. But we have a very robust internal training and upskilling program in place because the technology landscape keeps changing very rapidly, right? So you may have very good people, your key people who are technically very good. And while the technology keeps changing, we want to ensure that our good people continue to remain with us and they get upskilled to the newer technology. So our internal programs are typically in identifying those newer areas that we want to go after, and how do we want to create an full internal program so that we can drive upskilling. Of course, we need to get some skills from outside, but many times it's about having an internal vision and strategy around how do we want to build those kind of practices or newer technologies internally. And in terms of the kind of work, we build a lot of products and platforms. So it involves all kind of technology. It also involves a lot of product development and product management kind of skill sets that needs to be built in as well. So not just the technology skills, but even the softer skills are very important. And I have to say that in Gujarat, we do have challenge as far as the soft skills are concerned. And typically any tier 2, tier 3 companies, you'll probably have challenges as far as the soft skills are concerned. That's where you need to have internal training programs and mentoring and grooming programs where you could upskill them on those kind of skills. And these are all customer facing work, right? So you have to kind of prepare them for those kind of roles. So in terms of technology stacks as well, we are working on, we have built practices around all the latest technologies, which have been, and we have been doing this for last 15 years. Whatever new has come up, we have set up practices and we have put leads and programs around it. So whether it's cloud or AI, ML or generative AI for that matter, DevOps, IoT, automations, typically our team have to take up a problem statement which is given by a customer and work around that. So all technology which applies in a given situation, we have to use that depending on what makes sense. We also do enterprise applications rollout to different locations globally from here. So even enterprise applications rollout skill sets is what we have said. So in domain knowledge areas is also something you need to build internally if you are into a particular you're servicing on enterprise applications or automation building. Then so we try and bring those kind of aspects in our upskilling programs. So yeah, I mean, you get the basic skill sets, you have the a certain gap, you need to fulfill that gap and you also need to be very clear on what your offerings are to the customers and build your entire support systems around that.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Amrita. So from all of your input, it's very quite clear that all quality work high-end critical work is also getting delivered from the emerging hubs, which is a great thing to know for even for talent just looking to grow in the emerging hubs as well as for organizations. It's very key to note that you guys have successfully, implemented doing great global level quality work from your organizations. So thank you for all your input. So to continue with this conversations, Ashfaq, if I might come to you, since you've started Transform Solutions right from scratch, what were certain operational benefits that you got by setting up the center in Surat, and I'm sure there must have been challenges as well. So if you could sort of let us know what are the benefits as well as the challenges that you've encountered while delivering out of the emerging hubs. Ashfaq, if I can.
So, I mean, a lot of benefits, like Namrata earlier said, that being in a smaller city, it's easier to get the real estate of whatever size you need, uh, and you know things become easier, and this city is like 15 kilometers or 25-kilometer radius, so commute becomes very easy. uh, you don't need to provide any kind of transportation facilities, or because in I don't know about other states, but Gujarat, most of the cities have good public transport facilities available. And even in the heart of the city, if you take a place which is reasonably big enough, it would be one-fifth or the one-fourth of the cost that you would normally pay in Mumbai or Bangalore or Hyderabad. Yeah, so that is one. Second, in terms of challenges, since I started very early on in a city which did not have many IT companies, and maybe one of the first export companies, when I go to bank for inward remittance, I remember the credit of the first inward remittance I got was after 8 days. Because banks did not knew how to process that. So, but those were teething issues. Uh, if I have to, look today, like other panelists mentioned, it's become very, very easier to set shops in smaller cities. Gujarat, for that matter, has an extraordinary IT policy, a lot of benefits. I wish when we started Namrata, if we had that kind of benefits to to establish and support to establish. I mean, we would have been at a different level. Uh, yeah, so there are a lot of advantages for any particular location and challenges as well. But I would play more on advantages rather. Challenges are everywhere, so why bother about them? I mean, if we are entrepreneurs, so we'll have to figure out ways to tackle those challenges rather. But there are more benefits than advantages. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Namrata, could we get your view?
Yeah, sure. So I think Ashwak, in general, in terms of cost and retention and resources, has already covered that. So I'll just probably put a couple of points. As we know, right? Any whether it's an emerging or it's an established cities, you are going to have challenges. You're going to be having balanced pros and cons and benefits and challenges. And when we deliberated, we decided against going into a major city because we felt that there would be challenges for a company like us to get started. So I do believe if you're getting started, an emerging hub or a tier two cities, tier two cities is a very good place to get started to keep your things on control, whether it's about availability of resources or cost or infrastructure, everything. Of course, you need to choose rightly in terms of which location you want to choose, where you have the right kind of infrastructure and resources and talent available. So from that point of view, starting off, it does give you a lot of benefit, which Ashwat also talked about. And since it's a kind of a not, and when we started off, we had it was easier to set up our credibility as a company, and because you don't have as many big companies or as niche companies around, it's easier also to set up your credibility and your brand within a location like this, and you are able to grab. If you do it rightly and you have the right kind of branding strategies in place, you could possibly set it up quickly, and you will be able to attract talent as well. So that helped us because we started off in a place where we could present ourselves as a brand which has a certain vision and thinking with which we are going after. And also in terms of ecosystem which is getting developed, you have a lot of local support which starts coming in when you have a place like this. That's how we all know each other, because there are so many local support and bodies and communities which come together to help each other. Hence, that way also you get a lot of support from each other. In a place like this, obviously you don't have giants and the big companies here, so the progress becomes slow. So if you talk about a challenge, the progress becomes slow, and that's where the role of small and medium companies becomes more, right? We have a role to play here to ensure that the ecosystem comes up, because the biggest commit becomes very fast and the ecosystem develops very fast. But then if it is to be done by smaller and medium companies, we need to come together and create that kind of ecosystem. So that's a challenge you face, but that's where you have also an opportunity to come together and build this kind of a new place. Challenges initially we faced was convincing the customer that there is a location called Ahmedabad and it is not as much risk free. When we started off, of course, now it is non-existent. This issue is non-existent, but that was a challenge we used to face at the earlier times. We also faced challenges in terms of people willing to relocate to a place like Ahmedabad. Now, again, that issue has got lesser. But then at that point, we had a challenge in getting, niche skills from outside to come and relocate in Ahmedabad. In terms of academy, also there was a gap at that time because Ahmedabad was just coming up as a hub, and there was gap in the education system. So we had to work closely with the universities and colleges to build up the right kind of talent. So now it has definitely improved a lot. Infrastructure also, now there are technology hubs and SEZ and Gift City coming up. So that has also kind of get better. At that time, we did not have so many of such setups. So those were challenges at that time. But as I say that as you start investing into this place, more and more starts coming, companies start coming in here. It's a chicken and egg situation, right? Which comes first? You have more and more companies setting up, your ecosystem starts building, infrastructure starts building, education system starts supporting it, because there is a demand and there is a thing. So I do believe that government also can encourage, this by having certain policies and stuff where encourage some of the big companies and other companies also to set up base in some of the emerging hubs, which will help in speeding up this process. Maybe that's one role where government can play a role, because I'm not sure whether there is so much of incentive for big companies to come in here. So that will probably help in speeding up the process. But yes, the more companies start investing here, this emerging, as even Shefali mentioned, all the big cities are anyway getting crowded, and it's becoming less and less sustainable. So we have to have more hubs. So how do you get this more hubs? More business start investing there, government starts supporting it, we create those new hubs. That will really be in long term be more beneficial to everyone. It may be overwhelming to begin with when we start out, but I think in long run it pays off very well. So that's been our experience.
Very good point, Amrita. Avanti, I just want to highlight one,
So,
my experience here. You rightly said the government has to come forward to make it happen. Recently, I attended a webinar from Government of Gujarat, and it was a very interesting concept. They brought industry, colleges, and government together in one platform, wherein government explained that what they are doing to make the Indian youth more industry ready. Their programs, they are actually giving monetary benefits if you are doing certifications in latest technologies. What industries are doing, what kind of platforms, courses, skills they have launched, and what colleges are doing, how they are integrating with industry, and how they are coming forward, understand, anticipating that what is going to be the future needs and preparing their students accordingly. So that webinar was a very great initiative where you can have a holistic, all round perspective, and I think it should be repeated in other states as well. It's a very good concept.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up, Chipali. Thank you so much. So, just to add here, even NASSCOM is doing its efforts where we have the
Right.
Future Skills Prime, where we are doing it with the industry and the government, the certification, so that the talent becomes industry ready. And thank you so much for bringing that point. I'm sure other states are listening. So while we're in this conversation, Shipali, if I can ask you to continue with our conversation, what were certain benefits as well as challenges that you saw in terms of infra availability or the ecosystem availability overall in the emerging hubs? How has your experience been?
Just so that you appreciate this idea more, I would want to speak for 2 minutes more that what kind of critical work's being done out of here, right?
Sure.
That we are supporting all the motions of build, sell, and service for IBM for our existing portfolio from these
Okay.
hubs. But I want to very specifically talk about Watson X. So last year, IBM has launched Watson X, the AI and data platform that's built for business. It includes three components: .data, .ai, and .governance, and a set of AI assistants designed to help you scale and accelerate the impact of AI with trusted data across your business. It's open, targeted, trusted, and empowering. We also have launched our Instruct Lab in GitHub. It is a model agnostic open source AI project that facilitates contributions to large language models. We are on a mission to let anyone shape generative AI by enabling contributed updates to existing LLMs in an accessible way. Our community welcomes all those who would like to help us enable everyone to shape the future of generative AI. IBM has also released a family of Granite code models to the open source community. The aim is to make coding as easy as possible for as many developers as possible. We are infusing AI in every project and product we are releasing from these emerging hubs. So we really have highly talented people who are product experts and also have strong background in Gen AI. In fact, we recently signed an MOU with Gift City to establish an AI cluster. Now, financial institutions in Gift City will gain access to AI sandbox, assistance in providing proof of concept, AI literacy programs in which we have pledged that we are going to train 25,000 young people in Gen AI and digital assistant solutions. So you are seeing that we are um, walking hand in hand with the future of technology. This kind of high tech, futuristic work is being done from our emerging hubs. And the benefits of work, getting this work done from these emerging hubs is people, very senior people from bigger cities who were living in there for like decade, 2 decade, have actually got transferred to these emerging hubs in search of a better quality of life. You get a lot of time saved because the travel time is less because of better infrastructure, less traffic, better quality of air and water. They might sound very small benefits, but when you get them every day, it actually improves the quality of life much better. Less stressful lifestyle because it's not highly competitive and it's not dog eats dog world, right? And very strong government support for our development and significant cost savings for both companies and employees. But the challenges that we face, at least, or I can speak about me and my colleagues who have shifted after, say, I worked in Bangalore for about 2 decades and then I shifted here. What challenges we found is the social fabric here is not very experienced, so much influx of outsiders. It needs to be more inclusive. The rules need to get like little bit relaxed, um, for giving letting out your home to people who have come from outside. Second challenge we've found, people who have shifted with families, the quality of school education. While at college and university level, it's great, but school education can need a little bit of work where government can help. And a set infrastructure supporting working women like professional daycares, trained helpers, which are things that you take for granted in bigger cities, right? Because a working mother with young children who are not independent yet, you need a whole lot of support to be able to sustain your career. That is still developing because Companies are recently moving, and Gift City is a very new entity, right? There were only companies and one school. Now residential projects are coming up, retail projects are coming up. So I have seen a lot of change in the last 2 years, in terms of social fabric, in terms to have a nice weekend, to be able to spend a nice weekend in these cities. A lot of changes happened in the last 2 years, and I'm sure in next 2 to 3 years there will be no difference, right? But yeah, those teething issues, challenges you have to face. And what we are doing is, we are encouraging employees to shift for their families, so the social fabric doesn't impact them too much. People, who have shifted alone face much more challenges.
Thank you, Shafali, for your views. Mahesh, if we could ask you the same questions, what were the benefits and the challenges in terms of the infra and ecosystem that you saw?
So, Avanti, I don't think I should delve on the benefits much because the co-panelists have spoken about it. And, most of the participants that we have in this webinar would either be people, who are founders of organizations and emerging hubs, or looking at starting up companies, or maybe driving organizations which are looking at emerging hubs as an opportunity, or have there in some way. Benefits, of course, simple. You have cost benefits, you have talent retention benefits, you have quality of work benefits, stability benefits, and all those kind of things. And I'll not get into the challenges which my co-panelists have already said. And ecosystem and the social fabric is something which is very, very important to develop along with when you're kind of setting up your office establishment there. But a different kind of perspective is what I would like to tell the participants is, you're a businessman and you're going to a emerging hub with a certain objective, right? So you're not going with the objective that, like what earlier used to happen in those software export zones. People used to go to software export zones only because the government had given you some benefit. Otherwise, you were really not interested in that software export zone.
Absolutely.
But today you are going to an emerging hub because you are a businessman, you want to do your business there, you want to have the benefits of an emerging hub over there, which is obvious today. So I don't think you should really look up to, or really look at the government to help you. Frankly, if you're going with that objective in mind, then I think you're climbing up the wrong tree. Government has schemes which is either for very large enterprises, which are multinationals and Indian multinationals who have the power of influencing the change in that location, or they have schemes for very very small companies which are running with 4 people, 5 people, 10 people. But I think anyone and everyone who's a participant here would be a mid-sized kind of a company, which is talking about a 50 people to a 200, 300 kind of people. Trust me, government has nothing for you over here. Okay. But you don't need to go there looking at the government. You need to go there because of your business mindset and your business benefits. Now, when you step in there, you're going to face obvious challenges. Telecom stability will not be there. Internet stability will not be there. Transportation logistics may not be as great as you would find in a developed kind of a city. But there are other businessmen like you who are involved in these activities who will be more than willing to help you. And these would be government agencies also. So the biggest help I got in a city like Solapur 10 years back was from BSNL, because BSNL was more than happy to help me with a fiber optic connection and with a stable telecom connectivity, where the private players, I don't want to name them, refused to come because I couldn't give a business commitment or a volume commitment. So there the government agencies will help you. Go have a transparent conversation with them. They'll be more than eager to help you. And they will have various government schemes which helps them to help you also. So don't look at what the government is going to do for me. Those days are gone. Today we are moving slowly from democracy to capitalism. So you need to think like a businessman. You need to get the benefits for your business. And for that, there are many, many avenues of help which you will get from your own ecosystem and community. So, for example, even if you go to a small town, let's say I'm talking about Surat 15 years or 20 years back, you have a business community association over there. You say what your requirement is, that community will help you, telling, hey, I can help you here, I can help you there, because it's cross business for everyone, right? So go ahead to any emerging hub with that mindset, not with a mindset that, someone is creating a software export processing zone and I need to go there because government is giving me tax benefit, this, that, and all those things. Now, if you're creating a startup in an emerging hub or a metro city, register yourself with a DPPIT and ask for a tax exemption. 5 years, you get your tax exemption. That is the best the government can give you, and that is very, very beneficial, because while you're making money, you don't need to pay taxes on that for 5 years. So, other than that, my request is, the biggest challenge is you have to get the ecosystem to work for you. And as a businessman, you will have to do it. There are a government as well as private agencies which will help you. Some may help you more, some may help you less. But that shouldn't be your initiative that if government is doing something for me, then I will go there. Please go and explore the emerging hubs. You will have the benefits which are far more than what you can expect from the government as well.
Hey, thanks, Mahesh, for that view. So coming back to Ashfaq, what do you think are the unique perspectives or approaches that the emerging hub teams brought to your organizations? I know you've started from there, but how was it different from your other delivery locations for other organizations?
So, in any emerging hub, be it Surat or Ahmedabad or, any smaller towns, the people know that they have to live with certain limitations. So the jugaad mindset comes into play. With limited resources available, limited, places to go for help available in the local city, they have a tendency to figure out things themselves. So, and fortunately, that has worked or played for us very well, because, initially when we started getting projects which in technologies or in areas where we did not have expertise, our people figured out how to kind of deliver those projects with clients' help, by learning themselves, things like that. So I think that is the biggest advantage to be in a smaller city, or a less formal corporate kind of environment where the KRAs are defined. I would only do such things that are assigned to me, kind of a mindset. So yeah, here, if I have some problem in admin, or there's something, even the operations manager would come forward to help the admin manager to sort things out as quick as possible. So that's the kind of environment or culture that we get in a smaller city, because everybody wants to contribute, and if there is something good that they are getting into, they don't mind working long hours or to put in an extra effort with an expectation of some reward. They would want to be a part of something, and if they get reward, and if we reward them, obviously that they would be more motivated to do it more and more. But overall, I think that's the kind of my jugaad mindset really helped for us in getting things done. Despite of very limited, kind of similar talent pool available in our city. Even today that continues there. And like Mahesh said, I want to add one thing on that. So when you are in smaller cities, the ecosystem comes forward to help you to a great extent. And after you have been in business for a few years, you tend to know everybody, most of the people in the city. So that it becomes even more helpful for getting things done easier and much faster. So most of the things would be just a phone call away. And that's how it works.
Great. That's very interesting, Ashfaq. Thank you. So coming back, Mahesh, again, if you could, what are your unique perspectives or approaches out of working from the emerging hubs?
Okay, so frankly, emerging hubs, the biggest advantage you have of an emerging hub is, the people are more passionate. They are not looking at a 10-20% hike every year to jump jobs. Still, the value system is pretty strong there compared to a materialistic world that we have in the metro and tier one cities. So they take pride in the brand that they are working for. Now, I know cities which have developed like a Bangalore and a Hyderabad. Today, for example, a Bangalore, no one is concerned about the brand. I mean, whether you're working with the number one brand in the world, they are absolutely not concerned. They're happy working with some startup which is started yesterday, as long as they're getting the money. Whereas in comparison, you look at an emerging hub, for them, even that startup is a brand. And they look at what is the kind of value that they are creating, what is the kind of scale that they are operating at, whether it is a large brand or it is a small brand, whether it's a mid-sized company. They are more passionate towards their job. They are more aligned towards their job. I mean, the benefit that I have directly gained is what Ashfaq said. They don't have their limitations and segmentations. I have been told to do this, I will do this. I will not look beyond that. They keep coming up with ideas. They like to contribute. Of course, this benefit you get for 3-4 years before they get exposed to your other team members in the metro cities and they start thinking like them. but the initial 3-4 years, that benefit stands. And of course, the flip side of it is, after gaining some experience, they also like to move towards the metro city and, have a kind of a lifestyle that they see their counterparts or their organizational colleagues enjoying there. Or, we also as leaders invite them to our headquarters and, kind of try to spoil them by showing them the things that happen here. But otherwise, we have only stood to benefit as long as they are there's a 20% population which wants to migrate after a few years to the metros, which we encourage them to. But the large 70-80% are happy, with their family getting money, that pooling of income concept, spending time in office. You tell them to work in graveyard shift, they will have no qualms about it, because for any part you want to go, it's a 10-minute bike ride. Unlike in Bombay, where you need to travel, 1.5 hours to reach your home and come back from there. So those benefits definitely are there. And whenever it's too stressful and an atmosphere and environment, so my leaders, including me, we try to go and spend 1 week over there. It's kind of de-stressing. You are living inside the kind of campus or vicinity of the campus. Your office is 5 minutes away. I mean, even if you work from 9 in the morning to 8 in the evening, you still have a lot of time to do many things in the evening after 8 before you sleep and you get up the next day morning, which is something, as privileges in metro cities. And I stay in Bombay, born and brought up in Bombay. It's a nightmare in Bombay. So that way, I mean, emerging hubs are any day. So I look forward to my retirement when I can go and settle there.
Great. Thanks, Mahesh. Shefali, your view on unique perspectives?
Yeah, so see, I'm from a MNC here, and rest of them are entrepreneurs. So obviously, my point of view are a little different. But here I concur with Ashfaq and Mahesh that the opportunities are awesome. So in metro cities, a company like IBM, so many. People are there, so many teams are there. It takes time for you to come up and get those kind of opportunities, but in emerging hubs they are fairly recent, they are smaller teams. Everyone get much more and better opportunities. The leaders here in this emerging hub, we have been to all the major universities, colleges, have signed, have given presentations and represented IBM at major occasions. In fact, when the ambassador of US to India was here in the gift city, I got the chance to meet him. Like all these kind of opportunities you get, and when when your offices is in emerging hubs, they grow fast, and you grow with the growing office. So the opportunities are immense. As you said, as Mahesh has also pointed out, people are actually more loyal towards the company, and they stay for longer time. So retention is better. When we offer the jobs to people, the people turnaround ratio is much better. They do actually join, right? It is much better than the bigger cities like Bangalore, or Pune, or Delhi. And uh, and it's a long-term commitment, I feel, from the team to us, and from the company to the team. And another very important part of these emerging hubs is their strategic geological location. We are not only able to tap the talent of, say, I'm working in Gujarat, so I'm not only able to tap the talent within Gujarat, but in MP, in Rajasthan, where they have to really go, transfer really far away from their home to have a fulfilling career. They can do it now very well by joining our offices in emerging hubs, and they can go back to home in all the long weekends, right? And the availability of colleges and universities, and their willingness to work with us is great. We are able to create teams at scale with speed of highly talented young and enthusiastic people to deliver world class cutting edge products and services for IBM from emerging hubs.
Great. Thanks, Shefali. Namrata, if we could hear from you.
Sure, I think most of the points have been covered by the remaining panelists. I would just like to kind of rephrase and maybe put it in my words. A few of it is that this teams here definitely bring stability to your organization. uh, you can plan around people who are your key people. They're long-term associations, so your strategy can be around your key people, and you could sort of count on them in terms of your overall vision strategy. Whereas in probably other cities, your strategy is to be irrespective of what your people are, and you have to work around the change in guards every now and then. Yes, I do believe that people here are a bit more open and flexible, and there's a bit of openness towards taking new challenges and opportunities, and yeah, flexibility. While Ashfaq called it jugaad, that I would say the people, yes, are dynamic. They would find their workarounds and ways around, and they would be open to taking new challenges and adjustments to any given situation. When there is a customer situation, we need to do something. They are pretty open to those kind of situations. That's also because of the quality of life. I would say they are linked because in bigger cities, since the quality of life, your stress levels, and you need to attend to that, your travel times and etc. also doesn't allow you to be so much flexible. But here, the time availability gives you that kind of flexibility to attend to things as required in office, and we are also able to do a lot of activities because of the time availability, whether you can do so many engagement activities with people because there is extra time available during the day, training, hackathon, so many other events that you could do around the people. So that also creates an internal culture and a family kind of feeling. Those possibilities in emerging hubs and in a place where you have quality of life and little bit availability of people's time, those kind of things you could do here better. Yes, you would have certain strengths and gaps of the people that are available here. But what, you could also set up your internal systems and processes to overcome that. And we need to play around the strengths. We know there are certain strengths that people bring onto the table. So how do you kind of leverage those strengths and build your systems and process to overcome the gaps? Those are things that we need to work around. That if we are working in an emerging hubs, we need to definitely identify what are the strengths and what are the benefits we want to leverage on, and their challenges, how will need to be overcome by your own internal systems and processes that will have to be put up. And we have also tried to do, we've tried to bring in more diverse people in the team. Right now, given that this is also coming out as an emerging hub, there are people coming from different geographies, different places. So different cultural background, regional background, people coming together, creating a diverse team, right? Opens up the perspective of people here. Because so far they've been confined to, the local and what exposure they've been getting. But now that since this is coming up as a regional emerging hub, there are people coming from outside, right? That gives them an exposure, that also gives them a perspective of what other cultures are and perspectives are, and it creates a metro kind of culture within the organization. Even if it's not there outside, within the organization you can definitely create that kind of open culture and sharing and perspective of each other. We've tried to do that to some extent at our end, and that has also kind of helped us a lot.
Great, great. Thanks, Namita. Very interesting about culture sharing. That was a unique, definitely a unique perspective. So since we're nearing towards the end, I'll just jump to my last question to each one of you. So a little bit, if you can, let us know what are the talent acquisition, talent development, and retention strategies for these specific areas in your respective organizations. So Shefali, if I could request you to go first.
So see, IBM is a 113 years old company, right? It already have very mature and comprehensive processes around everything: talent acquisition, onboarding, learning and development, engagement and retention. We have AI infused self-serve processes for all our people, covering from their hire to retire life cycle. What we have done for emerging hubs is we have localized our central processes for these emerging hubs, keeping the culture and sensitivities in mind, and have local chapters of most of the initiatives at the global level. We have also signed MOUs with institutes where we develop talent right at the college level. For example, we have business relations with Ganpat University. I'm talking about only Gujarat, an Institute of Advanced Research, where we are involved from designing the curriculum to educating the students, assessing their work, mentoring, and making them industry ready. We also have a robust internship program where we hire students from all across the country and they get to work on live projects with real teams. And upon successful completion of their assignments, they are absorbed in the company as full time employees. Regarding development, we arguably and probably have the best learning and development system in the business, not only for IBMers, but also for our partners, clients, and students. And I encourage everyone in this webinar, all the participants, to explore skills built platform of IBM and get yourself trained in the latest and the greatest technologies and get yourself an IBM badge. It is an online self-paced system that you can cover on your own time and can become expert in desired field of the technology of your choice.
Great. Thanks, Rafali. Ashfaq, if you'd like to share your strategies.
So we work with a lot of universities and colleges in and around Surat to hire at internship level, and also parallelly have a process in place to recruit people other than from institutes, but at a fresher level. And we have a 3 months intensive training program where each they get the opportunity to work on live client projects after some training. And depending on how they fare during those training time, we kind of segregated them into a specialist team, and then there is further training. So that has been working for us very well. So the good thing is, like someone in the panel said, that not only from the cities that you are based, there is a lot of talent available in and around those smaller cities. So, for example, if I talk of Surat, there are towns like Navsari, Bardoli, Bharuch. All those have very little, kind of opportunities or employment options in their own smaller towns. So and it's just like 30-45 minutes commute to Surat. So very easy by train or by bus or by their own bikes. So people, I mean, we also have a strategy where we go to these smaller towns and recruit from there. And these guys are even more kind of loyal in terms of longevity, I would say, because uh, if we hire from there, we have seen that their longevity is more than the locals from Surat. Yeah. So because if they have to start their work at 8 o'clock and by the time they return home, it's 8 or 9, they hardly have any options to think about, other career options, something. I mean, yeah, and they are usually very dedicated because a lot depends on their income in terms of their family economics. Yes, that's all from my side.
Thanks. Namrata, if we could hear from you.
Yeah, sure. So, from a talent acquisition point of view, our strategies would be different based on the level of experience of people, right? Whether we're hiring freshers or mid-level or senior level or leadership level people. So with different, different, I would say, structure and different evaluation mechanisms and process in place for each of these different levels of this. Of course, like everyone, we would have tie-ups and we would have with the universities and colleges, and we engage with them early, and we try to get talents working with us a little bit earlier in the cycle so that they can get adjusted to what the expectations of a real corporate scenario is. So we try and engage with them early and train. The training programs that they go through is very much in terms of what would they need to do in a real professional corporate scenario. also. So the training programs for this kind of campus recruits is very rigorous and very structured. I'm pretty sure everyone must be doing that, but we have our own unique ways which we do that, and they become pretty much ready in few months to be put into live projects. The mid-level is while hiring, yes, of course, you need to work on the basic skills you're looking for, but you're never going to be getting an ideal candidate, right? So we are pretty open in terms of and are flexible in terms of hiring on potential. If we find that this person has a certain spark and potential, we look for that attitude, we look for that spark, we look for that potential, sometimes more than the skills, because you are going to find while we are saying we have our strategies in place, we know that the resources are scarce, where what we get we don't really what we really need is what we don't get in the market, right? So how do you go about compromising? What are the parts that you want to compromise and what are parts you don't want to compromise at all? So we've identified those kind of internal parameters. Of course, the basic evaluation goes through its own process, but then you need to know where and how you're going to make a selection of, given that you may not have an ideal candidate out there. So those are the decision makings where I would personally get involved, and we will meet the candidates, and if we feel that no, this person given some support would be able to do it, we would hire those kind of candidates, whether it is at all the levels, I would say. Right. What is important is the attitude and spark and the energy that one should bring into that. So of course, in terms of geographies, we have opened up into nearby states. Even from UP people are coming from different geographies. People are coming, relocating to this place is not a barrier anymore. Earlier, it used to be a barrier, but today it's not a barrier. So you can actually recruit from all over all over different states also. So we do that quite extensively now. And if required, sometimes now that COVID has given us a situation of work from home, hybrid working, scenarios like that. So you need to offer that if required in certain position. So we have made that in certain specific practices and technology skills. We kind of have that openness that, okay, if remote working is possible, then we allow those kind of flexibilities as well, because those kind of strategies in today's world, you need to put in place in your recruitment, right? And now that so once you've recruited, obviously you need know that, as I said, they may not be ideal candidates. You need to have your proper competency mapping in place. Where are they good and where they're not good, and how do you create the training program and induction programs around it to make them ready for the work that you want them to do, right? So the training and development, internal inductions, those kind of process needs to be strong in any. When it's an emerging hub or it's a it's a established city, I believe this is a necessity for today. So we need to put that in place. We have our own workshops and training series, certifications, online courses, all through to upskill the people, which is constantly going on. These are, as I had highlighted earlier, this is not only focused on technical skills, because the softer skills sometimes play a very important role. So we have identified certain programs where we feel that this person needs to go through it. Then we have identified soft skills trainings as well, which people can go through it. And defined goals are there for every 6 months. They are identified defined goals for these individuals, or each individual, I would say, and they are tracked. And this also gives them clarity in terms of their growth, right? If you have a defined goals, defined targets, areas of improvements, and what are the KRAs, and you have them tracked every 6 months, it gives them a clarity of where they are going and how they are moving in terms of their career as well. So this is what we try to do, and this is done quite extensively with each of the team member at our end, and which also helps in retention to an extent. Now coming to retention, because when you have clarity, when you have goal, when you know where you're moving, because financial factor definitely in last few years have become more I would say nasty in the industry, where financials have become a critical decision-making factor for people to more jump around. But it's stabilizing again a bit. And so apart from financials, there are a lot of other factors which helps you retain people, right? So we have to identify those points. We have to work around those points with the people. We also focus on not retaining all the people all the time, right? It is taking too much of your energy. So you need to identify your key people. You need to ensure those key people, there's a clear goal, there's a clear target, and where their career, aspirations are achieved. We also have very clearly identified some non-compromisable areas. You're not going to retain somebody who is a very good and key person just because, and what the retention cost or retention point is not falling into our policies, not falling into a value system. We would rather let that person go and work around finding somebody else rather than, because in recent times we saw in COVID, a lot of madness happened. People were retained crazily, people asking from work from home, crazy salary rises and etc. We had to put a little bit of sanity into there. While in some cases you might go a little overboard, but still you need to have what are your non-compromisable areas in terms of retention, and the retention has to be logical, should not be illogical, because many places we have seen we offered somebody and the company gave double the salary to retain that person. So and something like that, some cases we have seen. So we try to avoid the situations because it's going to spoil the industry, right? It's not going to be good for us in long term. And so those are some of the things we try and put in place. But yes, we do try to work with our key people and ensure that they stay with us.
Yeah, thanks, Amrita. It's very key point, spoiling the industry. We should definitely about it. Thank you. Mahesh, if we could, listen into your strategies, talent management.
So you asked me very frankly, Avanti, the strategies are common if you ask me whether it's a small town or it's a metro city. What do we do in metro cities? We go to the campuses and we hire from the campuses. We typically, if you're a large enterprise, you get access to, the A grade kind of campuses. If you're a mid-size or you're a startup kind of an organization, you don't get access to them, but you get to the talent from the other places. Now, when you pick up talent from the other places and not the A grade institutes, they have, of course, not undergone 3 internships and 4 internships and work with certain brands. So typically they've only done their education, they've done their own something on freelancing kind of. So whether it's a tier 1 city, tier 2 city, or a tier 3 city, the quality of the talent that you're going to get is not from the A grade institutions, not people who have done the internships. So your interventions have to be the same, whether it's that city or this city, emerging hub or a main city. The only difference, as Namrata said, is the communication skills of a tier 1 or a metro candidate, even if it's not from the A and B grade institution, happens to be better than that of from the emerging hub. So the way we have also kind of split it is the business analyst community and the front enders with the clients typically are based out of our metro locations. And the hardcore coders, the people who are far more skilled than what I would probably find in metro cities, we have those coders who sit in the emerging hubs, the scrum masters, the database administrators, the coders, who typically don't need to liaise with the client or interact with the client. They get the translated document in form of a BRD or an RFP or whatever. They get it from the community. Now, again, the split, if you see in this community, is typically an 80-20. So 20% people would be front enders, 80% people would be the coders who sit at the back end. So while the interventions remain the common, the talent pool remains the common. These small emerging hubs give you an added, privilege of kind of directly liaising with the college and their placement officers and creating course in the last or second last semester, which will be more relevant to your job profile. And they're also open to more of co-branded kind of certification, so that if you are not able to absorb, at least the open market takes them because someone has given a certificate from the industry saying that you have done this particular kind of a thing. So that's how we split our organization. So 80% of the workforce which doesn't need to interact with people, and they can kind of we can invest another 1 year in them to make them more communication savvy. So we get that window. Unlike some of the larger players, so the larger players also pick up children from the emerging hub colleges that we do, but they do a very unfair kind of thing that they put them on the bench for anywhere between 6 months to 1 year. Whereas with us and companies which are mid-sized and startups, these guys are already touching live products compared to their co-students or co-batchmates, and they're touching live products and doing a lot more things than what those guys are sitting in large companies and sitting on the bench. So, and the risk is always when there is a client contract not signed or a business downturn, the bench is the one which gets empty first. So it's really unfair to these kind of guys.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Mahesh, for the perspective. So I think we'll quickly go to the questions. Few of them have come up. So one of the questions that has come up is, what has been the most pivotal regulation or the government incentive for your growth in your particular geography? I think if I could request Ashfaq, if you could take this question. what has been the most pivotal regulation or government incentive for your growth in your particular geography? Or anybody, maybe if Ashfa can probably, yeah.
Like Mahesh rightly pointed out earlier, if you are only looking for incentives or government regulation to set up your shop in any city, be it an emerging hub, that may not be the right strategy to go after. I mean, if we are convinced that, we want to go to a place which has the right talent, right environment to set up our business, uh, the government incentives or policies can be added advantages to make things easier for you, but I believe that should not be the selection criteria for any location.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
Well, I think as far as Ahmedabad is concerned, right, I mean, it has a very clear IDS policies in place and, well-structured kind of infrastructure, support systems, etc. in place. So all that definitely helps. I'm not sure whether there will be a specific incentive or, kind of a policy which would have helped us. But then the overall support from the government or the various agencies or various bodies here or communities that have come together, and the infrastructure that has been put together in place, and the clear focus in terms of the digital areas from the government, those are the, I think, more, I would say, beneficial areas from the government. Because even if the incentives are there, those will be for the early years. They will not be for establishing, from the later point of view. So there may be some incentives for the initial, years. So you may have some benefits, but apart from that, I think you need to have your own. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Namita. So Mahesh, if you could take this next question. As per your experience, what challenges will we face in the upcoming 5 years with the current AI technology?
So if someone can answer this question globally, then I'll be the happiest person to connect that person. So if you ask me, this has been going on earlier. It was with the robotic process automation. Now it is with the AI and ML and those kind of things. Frankly, if you ask me, no one has a clear answer. I don't want to take big names here, even they won't have. So when people ask me these kind of questions, especially when we run tech companies, I say, there are some things that you need to go with the natural flow. And it's definitely going to change our lives. Now, whether it's going to be a negative impact, positive impact, that only time will say. And there's nothing that you or me or anyone in this world can do to change this cycle of evolution and this phase. So, we moved from typewriters to computers, from computers to mobiles, from mobiles to touch screens. We have evolved, we have grown with it. I don't think people have become jobless because of all these technology advancements. So you should look at an AI also as, a machine being more capable to do something than it what can do today. But people will eventually evolve to do quality work, and human brains can't. I mean, humans have made the artificial intelligence, so natural intelligence and natural stupidity will continue to prevail, and we'll keep innovating, we'll keep growing. So I think just go with the flow. I don't think you should be worried or paranoid about it. Nothing is going to change for us. I can give you a guarantee, because we all would have another 15, 20 years of our active career left. But if we are worried about our children, nothing is going to change for them, because they are smarter than us. And if my son is 20-year-old, definitely he's smarter than what I was at 20. So they will find a way to grow and evolve in life.
Great, thanks, Mahesh.
I
So
would
this,
a
Shefali, would you like to add? Sure.
It is a classical question, I keep on getting everywhere that we go. Once computers were, invented, and they were put on all the banks, the banking industry. So, they will reduce. They will, they will have less employees. All the banking will be done by computers. But the reverse has happened. If at all, banking industry just grew and grew, and they have, have reached in the remotest and the smallest part of countries, and we have seen the triple growth there, right? And as Mahesh rightly said, the technologies kept on changing, but the IT industry is also growing. We are adding more and more people into this industry. What has changed is the kind of work that we were doing. Now, there was a time when we used to do data entry in Excel. Obviously, that's gone. There was a time when a developer was doing all that coding, compiling, documenting himself. Maybe AI will change that. The compilation will happen by AI, the documentation will done by AI, but the business logic will always come from a human. uh, there are bots at enterprise level. There are AI bots for all those mundane tasks. Now you don't need to reach out to anyone for smaller things like your pay slips, like your experience letters. All that is being done by a bot today. But does it mean that HR industry is over? No, they are still there. They are doing more strategic work. They are actually being business partners with the businesses. So it is just an enabler which is actually free up your time to do more strategic work, more fulfilling work, and to take care of bigger, better teams and businesses. Uh, but it is coming. It is here to stay, and it is going to make businesses grow larger and our lives little easier. That's the hope, at least.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Rupali, for that. There is one more question. For a first-time organization starting a new GCC, wouldn't it be advisable to begin in established hubs to build confidence, gain experience, and then expand into emerging hubs? And I think we can take this question for any organization, need not necessarily be a GCC. Who would like to go for this? Namrata, maybe would you like to take this question? And we can take others' views as well.
Yeah, I mean, they will always be plus and minus, right? If you starting off in an established hub versus an emerging hub, right? If now depends on what is your factor of decision making, right? If availability of talent, cost, and infrastructure stuff, and you're at least setting up your initial base is the factor, then probably emerging hub would be better choice, and it has worked out that way very well for us. And you could always, and if you believe that for whatever work you are particularly doing, being in an established hub would be more beneficial in terms of your visibility, your exposure and expanding, etc. Possibly yes, then the established hubs would be better off. But in my opinion, if you choose your right emerging hub, I don't think it's a wrong choice to start off with an emerging hub to begin with.
Thanks. Yeah. Anyone else wanted to add?
Yeah, so maybe I see a lot of trend of GCCs, especially for mid-size enterprises coming to emerging hubs or smaller towns for two reasons. One, the kind of talent they get can be retained for a longer time. So I'm sure if they go to larger cities, again, they will have a lot of competition in terms of hiring, and talent retention becomes a challenge. And depend on skills. So for example, if a GCC is looking for a back-end or a financial kind of process, Gujarat, Ahmedabad, cities like Ahmedabad, Surat, becomes the right choice because there are already larger companies operating in this area, in these cities, with 2,000, 5,000 kind of employee headcounts. And for them, hiring those skills becomes very easier with already experience and experienced people. But if there is tech with a larger volume that they need, then that is the time they would need to think of bigger cities like Chandigarh or Pune or Bangalore, where the hiring becomes more easier for them. So I think depending on what kind of skill set they need, they can decide.
Great. Thanks, Ishfaq. We'll take the last question for today since we are just a little bit towards the end of the session. So does language barrier outweigh all other benefits? How can a Mumbai-based company do work around language barriers in case they see value in any of the emerging hubs? So what do you think, Mahesh? Does the language barrier outweigh all other benefits?
Frankly, it doesn't. Look, if you ask me, today English and Hindi are very prevalent languages across all our states. Okay, so even if you look at Tamil Nadu as a state, it has Chennai and Coimbatore, which are pretty well established, and you have companies which are technically based out of the north or the western part of the India, which have offices there. Among the emerging hubs, you have Salem, Madurai, Trichy. So why I'm taking Tamil Nadu as an example is because they have always historically been against Hindi. but you can survive there with an English. Now, if you look at Kochi, which is the example they have given, Kochi English and Hindi both are easily amenable. And if you see Technopark in Trivandrum, if you go to a place like Trivandrum, which has always been, between, if you compare a Ahmedabad and a Gandhinagar or a Bombay and a Pune, Trivandrum has been more of a religious and cultural hub versus the business commercial hub, which is Cochin. Trivandrum has Technopark, which is huge. And frankly, you get vada pav sold by UP bhaiyas in Trivandrum right now. The work in your farm and garden is done by the Bengalis. If you look at the Kakanad in Kochi, you look at the tech hub. It is as large as probably what you have in Hinjewadi in Pune, or maybe larger as well. So I don't think that language barrier is ever restrictive in India, as at least now. And there is free migration of population. And if you see the last 4-5 years, that kind of language barriers, language affinity pops up here and there, but then it is killed also immediately by the local population because they know it's detrimental to the growth of the city. So I don't think it's a challenge.
Thanks. Anyone else like to add? All right. I think with this we come to the end of the sessions. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all the panelists for giving your insightful views. I'm sure everybody is definitely will benefit from your views. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to the audiences also to ask all these interesting questions. If there are any more questions, do write into us at mumbai@nasscom.in and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So thank you everybody. And with this, I conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.